Good evening and welcome to Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms. Tonight, this is Raph streaming to you live high above the keep in the hot air balloon with a brand new microphone, and I have Neindorf with me. How you doing, Neindorf?
You're sounding great, by the way. I'm doing well.
Yeah, the listeners have really been on my case, and deservingly so. Uh, Here we are today. It is February 14th. It's a Monday. Hero Matching Day, as I believe it's called. I'll get in trouble for that later. And
Yes.
and we also had an AMA today with lots of goodies in it. So we got a packed podcast for all of you out there. All right, so let's first talk about. We got some intro items. Let me pull up my notes. Well, actually, let's go to question of the day first.
Sure. Yeah, you basically let us off already with a mechanics AMA, and we'll get into these details more. But they'd mentioned some tournament style things for land. I think the question on my mind is really how do we prep for these tournaments? Where do we go with our heroes? How many? What types? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I think I'm going to spend much of my waking hour, possibly non-waking hours too, thinking about how I'm going to prep for this. Well, we know a few things to be true, and we'll get into this a little more later. But the first kind of hero combat for land is going to be challenging stats, and that's something that we've been talking about and expecting for a long time on our podcast. I think the
Mhm.
second thing that's going to be true is we and although they did not say this in the AMA today, but we believe that combat's going to be based around a party of three heroes, and so having some balance to your heroes is going to be really important. Um, and then I guess the third thing that we'll get into a lot more later, but traveling is going to be this interesting dynamic that makes there kind of an opportunity cost for who you're sending where. That I think will actually have a pretty big impact. And we got to be considering that into our calculus. So how about you? What do you think?
Yeah, those are some really good points. Some of those I hadn't even really considered much. I think for me, what it really comes down to is it's becoming more and more obvious that if you can afford more than one squad of, and like I said, wild speculation, we're assuming three heroes. It just seems like a good number. Um, but it seems like a set of three good heroes isn't going to be enough if you want to participate in a lot of what they have planned.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think in my mind, I'm trying to say, all right, well, now I want to get to six or nine quality heroes. And then, of
Great
course,
point.
you got your mid and low tier underneath that as supporting characters. So, like, what I'm realizing is maybe I have two or three really good heroes I like right now. I think I need to get that to six, is kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I think you're right also to be thinking about it in squads of three. And so figuring out who pairs well together and how did the different stats complement each other. There's some great resources out there speculating this. And what I'm spoiling all the podcasts here, but you're going to ETH Denver tomorrow, and I'm hoping maybe you can sneak in some super secret questions for the podcast here. I'd really love to know more about how the combat system is balanced. That's something that Hubert referenced several AMAs ago. Actually, I think that was the last game mechanics one, and that it was that the hero classes are balanced for combat. And what exactly does that mean? I think that's still something that's on my mind, and it's kind of puzzling me a little bit. Is it a giant rock paper scissors cockroach contest, or is it a little more like, I in my kind of PvP games past, I think a lot about Pokemon, and how you have different type advantages that really play a big role, and then the moves that you have different typing that can be super effective, normal effectiveness, not very effective, and even zero effectiveness against other characters. And could they incorporate that into the game? Where pirates have super effective damage against a warrior because their bullets are piercing armor, something like that, or maybe it's the other way around where a monk has the ability to heal the party, cure status ailments, and you bring them out, then you sub them back to get your your paladin tank back out there. So there's so many different ways that my head's spinning right now, and I can't say there's just one particular way that I'm setting myself up. Beyond, I am summoning a lot with Gen 1s, and the recent airdrop buffs definitely helped encourage me to do that.
Yep, no doubt.
All right, so let's transition into Discord and Dev Dive. Talk a little bit about the projects that we have going on. First off, giant thanks out there to Guy Kidd. It's been recently promoted to an admin on our Discord channel, and he's given it a complete facelift. So send him a thank you note in Discord. Really amazing work. Really appreciative of what he's done.
Yeah, I agree. It looks great. I mean, I think it's a lot more organized. That you can better get information by category. It's all stuff that needed to happen, and we as more new people to Discord didn't necessarily have the time or know how to even accomplish it. So yeah, absolutely, we really appreciate that work.
Yeah, and it's we're starting to build out our Discord community, and I think that's something that our main intent is we want to have another resource for people who really care about questions like we just discussed in the question of the day, like how are we going to prepare for combat. That's the kind of conversation that we want to generate on our Discord. So thank you to Guy Kid for making that a reality. All right, next we want to go into payment system. We talked about this a little bit during the last podcast. Wanted to refresh it again. We're still having problems with the Anchor payment system, and so we are going to be moving to a on website payment system. If you want access to the hero alerts and to the deeper levels of the hero matching. And so that's something that we want to give our community, plenty of advance notice on. We're probably going to have about a month gap. Our goal is to not double charge anyone through this entire process. And we might actually be pushing that forward and getting that out sooner than later. Neindorf, I know you had a couple different ideas that you were kicking around. Do you want to kind of go through that?
Yeah, I think for now we'll probably suffice to say that maybe when the time comes, we'll put out another like vote in the Discord channel on maybe what ways people prefer. Obviously, we can't make everybody happy, and we'll do our best to accommodate anybody. And I think I would say we'll look forward to that, and that way you and I kind of have we collect our thoughts, see what's possible and what's available, and then we'll see what the community thinks.
Definitely. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. I mean, our goal is, we need to cover the cost of the website, and I think this is something that is as much as possible. We also want to keep creating free tools out there for the community, and if you are going to support us, we want this to be as streamlined as possible. It needs to not be a pain in the rear for you. So thank you also to our listeners out there for your support. I mean, it really means the world to us and really keeps us motivated to keep going. All right, so next we had on Discord. One of the things that Guy Kid put out there is a vote on kind of the direction of development that we have going on. Nindor, if you want to walk us through what are we looking at? What did the people say?
Yeah, I'll pull it up real quick. So it ended up got it to 7 categories of just kind of things that people had suggested or I had on my roadmap. And it's like, as it built out and more people were suggesting things, which is great, by the way. Keep the suggestions coming. We'll roll as many as we can in. It was just too many to get to at once. And I was like, you know what? Why am I picking these? Why don't we just let the people kind of pick and we'll migrate where people want to see new content? And so I guess I have to thank the community for basically making a tie and doubling what I want to accomplish in short term here. But that's awesome. That means that there's some good content coming. So the two that tied effectively were adding more information to the hero comparison page, somewhat similar to what the hero bot does, kind of sucking in some of that information too. Maybe adding additional coloring for more mutations down the recessive chains, and possible if you're going to summon, maybe a summoning comparison percentages window also. And I think that's totally doable. I've even kind of started on that on the side a little bit with some Excel sheets to make sure I can kind of replicate the math that HeroBot does. And I want to be telling the same story to make sure I have all my math right for that one. And then another one that tied with that is adding a combat corner page, which we talked about in the past. Which my goal for that page, I'm almost there too on this one. So this is great. I think you guys chose the ones that I'm closer on,
Well
but
played.
I want to be able to you put your address in and here's your list of heroes. I want you to be able to, say hit the checkbox next to three of them and boom, your radar chart just kind of fills out where these three heroes that you've picked are super magic heavy, and you can see that if you get into some physical damage realms that you might be hurting. And kind of play around with selecting different heroes, even different rarities or whatnot. So yeah, basically more hero comparison information and a combat corner page are the top two on my list, and I hope to get some of that stuff out here this week yet. So stay tuned.
Yeah, that's fantastic, especially with the, the advent of hero quests or land quests coming out, and now knowing that, having that combined stats information is clearly, the basis of the first iteration of PvP combat. So pretty cool. All right, well, let's go ahead and go to State of Heroes, something that I just wanted us to cover a little bit. There's obviously a ton of heroes in the game right now, and it feels like the price floor of heroes is sinking a little bit. I want to know how are you doing with summoning? Are you in a holding pattern? Are you in a summoning pattern? What's kind of your current approach to the market right now?
Sure. Yeah, so I had just finished up. We've kind of started referring to these as a crew. I don't know. It's kind of the lingo that when we find a pair of 10 out of 10 Gen 1s to run through, say the first five summons with, we'll refer to that as our crew, right? So I had just finished a crew, and, so then you end up with seven heroes, and hopefully you get some good summons out of that, and you have some that you keep and can add to your hero stable. Or otherwise, you kind of end up selling. If you get a bunch of Steves, well, you kind of got to dish them. And as we sit here right now, the hero floor is 38 Jewel. So
Woof.
you got to think about it, right?
Yeah.
We kind of it helps a lot that when we have our turns with the Gen Zeros, that you can make a Gen 1 for usually around, well, it depends on what the rental fee is, but usually around 80 Jewel. So that helps a lot, because you got to then add all your summoning fees. But I guess what I'm saying is I am still summoning. I'm currently just finished up with the crew, so I'm looking for the next parents, if you will. So I'm sort of trying to sell a few that I'm not going to keep. I have a couple that I made that I will keep, especially with some of this combat we've discussed. I want to keep more rare advanced plus heroes on order here. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm still summoning where it makes sense, but I'm not going crazy either, I would say.
Yeah, I've been trying this strategy as well, and I just got done with the first five summons on a warrior knight pair, and I'm not sure if I had good luck or bad luck with the results. It was something I was actually getting pretty excited about my luck early on in my first few summons, and it really petered out at the end, getting a few warrior fishers,
Yep.
common warrior fishers that obviously are selling. I mean, I think warrior fisher you got to sell under 38 jewel in order for it
What
to
is
go.
that Todd the Warrior we decided, I think?
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry if there's any Todds out there. No.
yeah. Todd the warrior, Steve the pirate. Yeah, sorry, Steves and Todds out there. We like you, we promise. And so if we need to come up, so our yeah question for our listeners, go ahead and give us names, and we need some diversity in here. We need some girl names going
That's
on.
right.
So help us out on Discord. Shoot us some names on the lousy heroes that show up, and you're just yeah, you want to cry yourself to sleep because it's like, oh my gosh, I know I lost at least X number of jewel because of that.
Hmm.
All right. Anyways, I digress. So I got done with my pair of a warrior and a knight, and One of the things that I felt like I was also battling is I purchased them about 2 weeks ago when these Gen 1 Pures were going anywhere between 100 and 130 depending on how bad the purchase bots wanted to screw you that day. um,
Yeah.
and now we're at a place where I picked up a Pure for like 88 joule the other day.
Wow.
And now I'm out of money though, so or at a Jewel. So,
Jules been converted to heroes.
yes, it sure has. Every podcast I feel like I'm at a new all-time high. So we'll see what happens. I've also been a little hesitant to sell with the airdrop that it's the snapshot is sometime today, probably late at night. And so I'll see if I can sell some more maybe tomorrow. But then, like you said, now there's a few heroes that I was, actually starting my next pair of a monk and a pirate, going for that ninja class. One's a forager, one's a fisher, and so I feel like I got a pretty high chance at coming up with some decent offspring. And one of my
Hmm.
first pulls was a 505 rare ninja forager, and I haven't gotten. Yeah, I tried to price him around the floor, which a couple days ago was around 220 jewel. He didn't go, and I've been questing with him, of course. And now I'm starting to wonder, do I want to list him? Because he could be, being a rare, he could be decent for combat. I don't know. What do you think I should do?
Yeah, so that's kind of funny because that's pretty much the exact same pull I started my uh one of my previous crews with as well, and it takes great because first of all, a pull like that on the number one summon really takes the pressure off. You're in the money.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm still holding my 505 rare ninja I got too because it's the same sort of deal. Yeah, I did the same thing. I dipped your toe in the market a little bit. Um, and then it's like, you know what? Actually, he's got a couple runes for me. It's funny. Mine's a forager too, so it's literally almost an identical pull. And I'm just gonna hold because
Yeah.
he's paying off, and he'll be once he hits level 5 in a few weeks. I think he'll be a solid hero.
Yeah, you never feel good if if they go right away when you list them on the market. It's a little bittersweet. It's like it's great to have that jewel in your pocket, but at the same time, you're like, oh, did I price him too low? Could I have done
Exactly.
better? So it's that constant balance. All right. So that's our Gen 1 strategy that we've been working on. And of course, that's really powered by the alert system, being able to buy those, Gen 1s and then matching them, trying to find that ideal pair and that ideal match. So next thing we want to talk about a little bit is Gen 0 giveaway. So unfortunately, one of our first winners never responded on email, which probably means they did what most people do for a King Sumo tournament, or King Sumo giveaway, where they entered every single email they had under the sun, and the one that won is an email that they don't check often. Anyways,
Yep.
we have a new winner, and we're trying to find a time that lines up for us and a time that lines up for them. And so we're probably looking at 3 or 6 days from now. And again, now is February 14th, Monday in the evening. So, we'll reach out to that listener. I hope it's something we could stream, but based on how my OBS studio crashed the last time, it might be something that we just end up recording and then we post live later on.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think that's good it's just kind of fun to sit with the winner and you chat with them a little bit, see what they're hoping for, and I think there's value, and it's just kind of it's community building too, right? So I think we should try to get that out there if we can.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm learning a lot too. Like I feel like the IQ of our Discord channel is raising my IQ just just by hanging out in there. So I mean, we've brought in the right crowd, so it's pretty neat, and I feel like I'm learning from the team there. All right, so without further ado, the amazing nuggets inside the AMA notes. All right, well, let's start with kind of the slow one. The first thing they talked about was, and I should say, I am reading Sandwich Punch's notes. I had a prior engagement today, and you did as well. And so we're going purely off note form and what we saw in conversation in Discord. We were not there. So we are at the mercy of our research at the moment and our interpretation. Dex voting, and so they've recently voted on a new protocol. It sounds like to me to stabilize what coins will be considered to be on the Dex and why. As lackluster as this item might seem on the surface, it's something we kind of actually we had a really creative question from one of our actually now an admin Titan Tom on our Discord talking about what role does Dex play in the game. We're still trying to come up with an intelligent response to match the intelligence of the question. But I feel like the stability they're putting or the efforts they're putting into creating a stable Dex is really important. And so although this is kind of slow from a gameplay standpoint, I think it's really good to have this structure in the back end. And the way they do voting protocols as well, I really like it. And, it's a community project, and so people vote on what they want, and those voters are investors in this project. And so in a way, they're also really listening to what people have asked for out there.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I've been meaning to do some research on this as well. And kind of as you alluded to, we're not really there yet. I think it's a great point though, and it's kind of bringing up it's the concept of an antithesis against the game. Like we're all really bullish about that, and we just want to. It's easy to get your blinders on, so you kind of have to have that healthy skepticism of anything you invest in. And so I think that was Titan Tom's point was like, how can we be sure we're basically making the right decision, keeping our assets in this game, and I love that concept. So stay tuned, listeners. We'll do our best to come up with, as you said, an intelligent response and try to get some good thought provoking discussion. Maybe one of these next podcasts.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so the next item, a lot of shrouded mystery here, but the perilous journey. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring up the exact notes from the AMA. Perilous journey. And this is, Hubert mentioned this. We will talk about this a lot more in detail at the event, and I believe they're referring to ETH Denver, which takes place tomorrow. But to give you an overview, there was a promotional video about what happened. Someone in Crystal Vale arrived in Serendale, so now they are aware of Crystal Vale, but they don't know how to get there. So there's a call for heroes to help chart a path to Crystal Vale. This will involve hero burning and a lot of unique rewards that I think you guys will be excited for. If you ask questions about it, we aren't going to answer them in this AMA. This is coming very soon. What do you think about this? I mean, this is a giant drop in terms of content. So let's hear what you got.
Yeah, I mean it's really funny. One of the Crystal Vale sneak peek, they literally showed a card like on fire. So we kind of figured this was coming,
Uh huh.
and I think it's great that they actually kind of confirmed it. And as we were sitting here talking about the hero floor being at 38 Jewel, and I don't think I've ever seen it at 38. I've seen it at 39 before, but it that's going to be a mechanism that's going to help uh, keep that at a reasonable value. And I say reasonable, and I guess the sense that what you spent to create that hero, you're able to get some of it back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's great when we have really low hero prices for entry level players to get in, but it's very difficult when you have people who have invested into it. And if they do get a bad summon, and if the floor price were to continue dropping to like 20 Jewel, I mean, the cheapest one you can create heroes is 32 Jewel, so you've taken a sizable hit. So I think personally, I love this mechanic, and I think it needed to happen because you can't just infinitely create heroes. I mean, it's just that model doesn't really work. It's kind of like crypto coins, that some of the cryptos where they create and inflate their coin and they make more and more all the time end up having problems sometimes because you've got reckless supply, right? So you have to have a dampener on that. And I think this is a great way to do it. It fits into the story. It's logical. I love it.
Yeah, a term to borrow from my Pokemon days again. In the mobile game Pokemon Go, I called it the Pokemon grinder, where you would send your Pokemon out to quote unquote research, and they would return to you as candies that you could feed your other Pokemon. So a pretty morbid outlook on
Uh,
how you do that. But again, a method to, a game balancing method that is tried and true out there, I'm sure, with lots of other games in the marketplace. So, I'm really excited about the Hero Grinder. So kind of my reckless speculation here, and I'll have you give me your thoughts after I share. But I think, you're going to send heroes out on a boat on a trip, and I think there's going to be like X% that, 3 heroes or 4 or up to 3 or 4 heroes don't make it back. And just like you send 6 heroes out on a quest right now for mining, foraging, or fishing or gardening, that you would send an X number of heroes out on the boat quest, and that you always know that you might have a few heroes that die off along the way. And so I think there's going to be some strategy to, if I'm going to send my mythic over there to Crystal Vale, I sure as, shooting better have some cannon fodder in the way to make sure the Steve the pirate or Todd the forager, or excuse me, who is Todd again? Is he? Oh,
I think the
Todd
warrior
the
we're gonna go with.
yeah, Todd the fisher fall off the boat first.
Yeah,
I
the red
don't.
shirt in Star Trek, right?
Yeah, exactly. Uh, yeah, one of my favorite memes of all time. Oh boy, I'm really going off the rails tonight.
Oh, keep going. It's
Is
fine.
Scotty from the Enterprise series of Star Trek, or no, yeah, the first series of Star Trek. He says, "Lady, you think the Scottish are tough? I'm the only red shirt who's made it through all the episodes." So yes, the red shirts in Star Trek,
That's
Steve the
great.
pirate, and Todd the warrior. Who, we need some cannon fodder to go overboard here. So what do you think about that mechanic? That there's going to be some risk, and you got to make sure you send some of your less than desirable heroes over to Crystal Vale.
Yeah, I think this is like I said, it'll help the hero floor price because I can imagine if say you're down to just your good heroes and you know that you have a chance to lose say 2 of 6, I could see legitimately going and buying 2 floor heroes just at that moment, just in time, if you will.
Insurance.
To you're
Yeah.
right. Yep. And then I there's got to be, is there a reward, or do you get a some compensation on the other end for losing a hero? Like, does Crystal Vale pay you tribute for your lost warrior? I don't know. We'll see how that turns out.
I definitely think that mechanism's in place. Yeah, he says this will involve hero burning and a lot of unique rewards I think you guys will be excited for. So
Oh,
clearly
nice.
the journey itself is going to be worthwhile. So gosh, it's kind of challenging because, something else, and I mean, let's just go ahead and segue into land. Um, so it's going to start to release, and we'll talk about that PvP style in just a second. Um, but they also reference that there's 949 lands available here in Serendale, and that there are more lands available in Crystal Vale. And so we don't know the timing of when lands in Crystal Vale will be available. We know for sure there will be professions over there, and from the sounds of it, it sounds like there are going to be other resources that you can get in Crystal Vale that would be more scarce or completely not available in Serendale. And so there will be value to risking that journey and sending some of your good heroes that could be very talented at acquiring those resources, or in the future the land that's over there in Crystal Vale.
Yeah, I can't wait to learn more. Honestly, this is one where I don't even know where to start speculating because it's like it's so wide open yet. So we all got to stay tuned and watch those AMAs, and let's enjoy every bit of it.
Yeah. All right. So the next major point is land tournaments, and they say they're in the works. Can't give you a deadline, but as far as the way it's going to work, it will be our first foray into PvP, so player versus player combat. It won't be full combat, but it will be PvP in a simplified tournament where it'll be a stat based and it will be based on a best of 7 match. It will allow us a starting prototype of things that we need to do for the combat system. We'll need to be able to display what happened in the combat interactions in a sequential approach. This allows us to do what gives players something fun to do and compete for land ownership. This one is like, wow. Really kind of opened my eyes and got me super excited, as we talked about in the question of the day. I think this is something that, we thought this was going to be. This is something we talked about on this podcast. We thought this was going to be their first foray. Is exactly this, where you challenge stats and it'd be stat-based combat before it gets into a more complex system. So I know we talked about this a little bit and covered it already. If you're all right with it, are you okay with moving on to the next section?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Let me bring up my notes again. All right. So the next section I want to go through is traveling. And, I don't want this to be an I told you so podcast, but I feel like you nailed this one on the head too, where they talked about traveling having an opportunity cost to it. And that when you travel to another spot on the map, it is going to require some kind of trade-off or opportunity cost. It could be in stamina, it could be in time. And they mentioned, they currently are so I'll just go ahead and read what Penguin said. As far as things in the pipeline, Hubert mentioned the perilous journey, land tournaments, combat system, and another thing in the pipeline is travel. So we have a big, beautiful map with the art development worked on. In the first expansion, the 100 lands. One thing that we'd like to have with that is the ability to move around it and do quests specific to a region and fight enemies in those regions. To do this, we need a good travel system that is blockchain compatible. There might be some mock-ups that may get posted in the voiceless chat. And so there's an image over in DeFi Kingdom's voiceless chat. Go check that out. Ideas and technology here is pretty novel, so we're excited to get this out to you. And so it's clear that you're going to have to send your heroes around the map. And I think one thing that's a little different than what we expected is based on the distance from the keep that they have in this little image that's shared, that it seems like, even in small travel distances that you see even within the 100 plots of land that are already released, that you're going to have to pay a travel cost. And do you think, my first question for you is, do you think that traveling will have a variable cost to it? In that, traveling to a shorter distance will take less time or have less opportunity cost or less stamina, so on and so forth?
Yeah, so I guess I'll just equate it to things that I've seen in the past. I forget what game it was exactly, but maybe it was like it was a civilization builder. I forget which one, but basically, you would send your armies across the map, and it would take so many turns, if you will, to get the armies across, and then you could invest in the land and put roads in, and then you could shorten the travel time. And so now my mind is spinning like, if there's a travel cost and I own that land and I build roads, do I get to collect that travel cost? So these are
Oh.
the sorts of things that, because they've said they want land to have value. And if you own one of those lands that's right outside the keep and people are traveling those roads constantly, like that would be a huge source of income, I have to imagine. So that's where I'm at right now. That's the big thing that's on my mind when we talk about travel and costs. It's you're paying the road tax.
We're gonna start calling Neindorf Travelocity here because I think you hit the nail on the head with this one, just like your first prediction. You
Yeah,
could not
you
be
just
more right. And
go to those previous games, man. There's been so many great games in the past, 20 years. I feel like we just got to recreate the best of them. And I think that's kind of what DeFi Kingdoms is doing. They're taking the best games and trying to pick pieces and make the best summation. That's kind of what leads me to this stuff.
yeah, and so actually that segues me nicely into the next point. So they talked about land being associated with some kind of resource management system, where heroes contribute to gathering resources, land being available for guild systems. They talked about, if your guild has multiple plots of land, could potentially the size of your guild actually have a cap to it, depending on how many lands you have. And mentioned that there is a ton of utility for the land in the future. I think you're onto something here. I think that's brilliant. And for a landowner in the future, you're going to have some trade off decisions. Like, do I want to spend my own resources as a landowner building better roads that people want to, go through my path? Or do I want to spend my resources, creating a better mine or a better fishing pond, something? Or, maybe people construct armor or weapons on a building that you have on your land. And so I think there's going to be just that ton of flexibility in the future that, we all have to look forward to.
Yep, absolutely. Seeing how this builds out is going to be very interesting, and you know it'll be very profitable. And we've heard the devs say that. So
Right.
get
And
your heroes ready.
very scarce as well. Yeah, so the next point, kind of speaking of armor and items, they talked about crafting. And so here it is. Dagmore has been heading up a crafting system for us. Level 10 profession quests have been somewhat delayed because we're trying to get some of the resources that will be used in the crafting systems built into the game. And so something that that wasn't on my mind of something that's coming so soon, but I think definitely plays into land being more valuable, and then as we'll talk about here in a moment in PvP, also items, weapons, things like that having a bigger role in the game. I also hope
Yeah, absolutely.
I also hope that maybe there's a opportunity to balance some of the professions as well. Pretty clearly, you have mining, far and away the best profession in the game for most, most with Lock Jewel, and then the other three, depending on the amount you have locked in the gardens, are either equal, or gardening could actually be even better than mining for you. And so it'd be nice to see some balance to those professions, maybe in how many items or the kinds of crafting items you could get. All right, so they made another note on hero ROI, and I think this is something that they continue to harp on, that um, while they're interested in keeping a balanced cost of entry, they're going to be introducing mechanisms like the scholarship program in the future, that they don't care so much about the the hero floor price as much as they care about heroes themselves having a return on investment. And they haven't mentioned, what that time frame is, but I think that is something that's important. That will continue to play into their development of the game. Not a lot to talk about there. We've covered this one before. Anything you want to go over though?
No, not this time. I think you nailed it. We've kind of hit this point, and we'll if there's any more like real data, we'll get it to you guys.
Oh. All right. So next we got some major nuggets on combat. Um, I'll just go ahead and read some here. Some of the notes from Sandwich Punch again. Each class has its own skill tree that you can pick from. So it will be a game of what is the best combination, and we've never had the intent for genetic skills to be the primary way to gain an edge over higher ranked classes. And so a lot to unpack here. The question was about, what about the genetic skills that we're just learning about? And again, that's active 1, active 2, passive 1, passive 2. These genetic skills have the ability to mutate. And I think the question was based around, how does the value of older heroes work before we knew that was in place? And then also, are we just going to, do we need to target transcendent genetic skills as the way to go in the game? And it sounds like there's going to be, they play a role, but are not the only item. So I'll continue here with some notes and then get your feedback on that. So we will also have equipment and other items. There will be a lot of moving parts. A weapon you might have could give you an advantage, or there will be armor. There won't be any one piece that is the complete solution. So, what is your initial reaction, Neindorf, and how is this impacting your thoughts on combat?
Yeah, so I think it leads me in a couple places. I think, now we've got class skills in the mix that we don't know what they are. So it's obvious that there's going to be some classes that are maybe going to deal out, buffs or debuffs or crippling things, for example. And then, I never really considered this until today, but there's a class called the Summoner. Gee, I bet he's going to summon creatures to help you. I just don't know why I never actually like really thought about it. So I think that's going to be a thing. Maybe he creates an army of minions that you can kind of maybe it's the meat shield, right? You don't need a big tanky warrior. If you have a summoner, maybe he can create a shield. So, and then, you combine that with equipment or amulets that might provide boosts. I mean, yeah, this is shaping up to be quite a complicated system, and and that's great because now it's not all about who has the mythic dread knight, right? Maybe he's got his weakness, and if you know that he's out there, you can set up to counter that weakness, and to give yourself an edge with maybe just an advanced class. You know what I mean? So I think this is great. I think I can't wait to see how all of this plays out.
Yeah. So let me ask you a serious question here. Would you rather fight 100 horses that are the size of a bun bun, or would you rather fight one bun bun that's the size of a horse?
Uh, I don't know. Horses can be tamed. I don't know about bun buns. Those things could be crazy for all we know.
They could be absolutely feral. Um, so yeah, I think
Uh,
that's an interesting thought on the summoners, and I like that kind of idea. That they could create some meat shields for you that really evolve some complex elements into the strategy that I'm looking forward to finding out more about. So the next item that I pulled out from the AMA notes kind of complements that very well. They talked about how genes and subclasses could play a role in combat in the future, and reference that or not the genes, but the stat boosts. And so your blue stat boost, your green stat boost, those might have some kind of contribution to combat in the future, as well as subclasses could play a role in the skill tree that you have available to you. I thought this was pretty cool. And I know you and I have talked about this before, that subclasses right now are they contribute towards your stat growth, but are otherwise pretty ho hum when it comes to how we've been including them in the calculus of what you do. So, what's this mean to you?
yeah, I think you're right. I think they had definitely taken the back burner in my mind, the subclass. It's kind of run the full gamut as we learn more. I feel like originally we were saying that, oh, before the professions had come out, we're like, oh, maybe professions aren't that important, and then they were the most important, and and then uh, the blue and the green genes were the most important to go with the profession, and then it was like, oh wait, maybe these hidden genes are the most important, and now we're like back to subclass. And pretty much what I'm realizing is that everything is important, and the more match you can get between all of the items, the better you'll be. But we just don't really know what matches yet. So, it's kind of funny to come full circle on some of these items.
Yeah, it
But
is.
what I'm learning is the devs know what they're doing, and they're going to create a nice, balanced, complicated system. So I think that's going to be great long term.
Yeah, and I think the skill tree is where you'll probably spend your skill points as well, don't you think?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
I mean, there's countless RPG games out in the world. This is absolutely not a novel concept by any stretch. And so I think that's the right place for the skill points to go, and how they'll complement the system. All right, so you're traveling tomorrow morning. Where are you going?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. I had a work trip that just come up last minute, uh, sending me to Denver tomorrow until the end of the week. And I was like, wait a minute, I kind of feel like I saw something on Discord saying that that was ETH Denver this week. So I went and looked up, and sure enough, yeah. So I would really love the opportunity to stop by. I know the DeFi Kingdoms, they have a delegate of people that are there. I'm really hoping I'm able to attend, at least in the evening hours after I'm done with at the Fiat mine, if you will. But what I'm noticing is that it seems like passes are hard to come by. So, I'll let you know what I find out. But I'd love to be able to do a little bit of a meet and greet and maybe get some inside info. And we'd love to invite one or any of the devs on our podcast too. So we'll see what we can pull off. But I just got to figure out how to get that pass so I can get in, or I'm gonna have to find a back door or something.
All right, listeners who are going to ETH Denver, help Neindorf get in. Shoot him a message on Discord. His Discord information will be at the bottom of the show notes. Or, I know you like beer, and there's some pretty good breweries in the town. So, maybe you could go grab a beer somewhere with someone.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, I will say I loved going to the Coors Brewery. I never enjoyed a Keystone as much as I did straight from the tap of Coors itself. That was good.
It's just a special way to do it, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Well, good luck on your trip tomorrow. That's pretty exciting. Safe travels. And that's it for us today on the podcast and Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms. Any closing notes from you, Neindorf?
I think the only note that I really have is that with all of these complexities, and we're trying to do our best to predict the way this game is going to go to give you our listeners a heads up or a head start if possible. We'll keep doing that, whether it's even a person, a face to face with the devs, or if it's just through some analysis and our history with games. But yeah, keep listening, and we love hearing from you guys in Discord and sending us these suggestions on the site. So keep it up, guys. Let's keep building this community.
All right. Well, thank you very much on behalf of Neindorf and myself. We hope you guys have plenty of success out there questing, and good luck, friends.